So you bought Eco, joined a server. You started getting into the game and got a little homestead built, got a store set up to start trading some goods, and the server went dead. Either people stopped logging on, there were no trade opportunities, or worse yet, whoever was hosting the server just pulled the plug. Well, let me help you out with that. I'm going to show you some tips on how to select the right server before you invest days or weeks of gameplay. The game of Eco is great, and you can definitely enjoy the building and crafting aspect alone. But the best experience happens when you can find a good server with an active community of people. But finding one is hard. There is the trial and error method, but I'm going to show you how to leverage some data on the menu of available servers that gives you some more insight into the nature of the server than what's just on the surface. I'm going to go over some of the more obvious data first. First is the age, which is the number of days since the server started. The first instinct is to pick the one that is only a day or so old, which isn't bad. It means you're getting in on the beginning of a server, and those first few days of primitive life with no roads or vehicles is a nice one. But there's more to it. Some old servers can be as good as brand new ones. DadSpeed, for instance, is over 100 days old and still going strong. So here's some other data to look at in conjunction with age. Now, before I go any further, I should say that a lot of this data needs to be viewed together to get that good picture. So just like the number of days the server's been up, I wouldn't look at just any one factor. Take it all in together. The next thing to look at is the online number. You'll see two numbers separated by a slash. The number to the right is the total number of people that have logged onto the server. And the one on the left is the number of people that are currently online. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the number on the right, because the total number of people that have logged in doesn't mean that much. A lot of folks log into a server, look around, maybe even play a few hours, then for whatever reason log out, and never come back. That doesn't mean it's a bad server. It's just more a fact of online games like Eco. The number on the left is more telling. This left number I recommend watching for a couple of days. You should check the server to see people online at different times of the day. Check it roughly about 6-hour intervals and see how the numbers look. You could check in the morning and see only 2 people on. Then in the evening, see 15. It can vary a lot. Now, you may see a server that has a lot of people, I'll say 15 to 20, almost round the clock, and think that's great. And it might be. But if the server is only 2 days old, it's not overly telling of the server's long-term health. And many people will join a new server because it's new. So it's pretty common to see a lot of folks online in those first few days. So look at the age number as well. A server that is approaching day 25 and still has 10-ish people online at some peak hour, that's a pretty good sign. Now, you might say that 10 people isn't very many, but Eco is a game that runs 24/7 on a server. So it's often the case that different people are logging at different times of the day. Seeing 10 people at a peak time could mean there's actually 30 active people, and that 2 to 5 people you see at other times of the day is a rotation of players coming and going that make up the total population. For all practical purposes, I think you can pretty much ignore the match and ping. There's been servers I've really enjoyed that have a low match, and as far as ping, it's not a first-person shooter game, so ping, generally speaking, is not a big factor. Just the overall game optimization and what's built on that server will matter a lot more than the ping. The next important key is on the right-hand side, and that's the Meteor. By default, the Meteor is yes, and it's a 30-day cycle until the Meteor hits or is destroyed. Usually, having a Meteor means the server host intends to end the server session shortly after the Meteor, so isn't intended for long-term play. Some servers even compress the time till the Meteor into a shorter time frame, like 10 days, for a more higher speedrun kind of challenge, and hopefully the server hosts will write something in their description to let you know the general intentions of the server, which is another great piece of information. Always read the description. A quick thing you should check, maybe before all the others, is the password. It might look like a great server, but if it says password yes, you're probably not getting in. You can see if they have a Discord link posted and try to reach out to them to see if they're open to giving you the password, if you're really interested. But they might just be closed and working with a given circle of friends. Now, a really telling bit of information about the feel and play of the server comes from the specialization setting. A value of very low means that people will not need to specialize in just a handful of skills. And this is because the speed at which skill points are acquired is very fast. So very low specialization is fast skill point gain. Very high is slow skill point gain. Fast skill point generation will mean that most people won't be relying on others to supply them with materials, and most folks over time will be mostly self-sufficient. So there won't be a lot of trading on a lower skill specialization server. By contrast, high specialization servers generally require more collaboration between players, and is also indicative of servers intending to be up and running for the long term. Admins also have the ability to dial the skill point acquisition speed down even further than very high specialization, but you'll only know that if you make some sort of contact. The number of trades can mean a lot too, but should also be looked at with the age and average online players. It's pretty common to see a lot of trades early on as people are trying to get set up and established. But if you only see 200 to 300 trades after quite a few days of gameplay, that's a bad sign. At least if you were looking for a server with a thriving economy between players. The number of contracts doesn't necessarily mean anything, one way or the other. Some servers heavily utilize contracts, others don't. DadSpeed issues a lot of payment through laws rather than contracts, so it just depends. The same can be said for the number of laws. High or low numbers don't necessarily mean anything. It can also depend upon how the laws are written. A law can have one section in it or many sections, 20 or more, each one effectively governing some sort of behavior. So the number of contracts or laws won't tell you much about the economic health. World size, however, is another big indicator of how the server's gameplay will go. Both small and large worlds can be fun, with their own challenges. 1 kilometer squared worlds are the smallest, and 4 kilometers squared are the largest. I currently play on a server that has a 3 kilometer squared, and it takes a good bit to drive from one side of the world to the other. So 4 kilometer squared worlds are really, really big. In fact, it can be a bit of a challenge to get everyone connected with roads. So unless you're pretty close to other people, you can expect to be pretty isolated from trade for a good while. Maybe that's good or bad, but just know 4 kilometers squared is really big. The 1 kilometer squared can be pretty snappy. If you get really salty by people claiming land near you or have aspirations to sprawl out and create a grand estate, then a 1 kilometer squared world could crimp your style. Land is at a premium, and there can be a lot of scrapping over prime real estate for resources. But it's not all bad. Trade is usually pretty active, as people are in close quarters, and it can be kind of fun to build these tight cities where vertical buildings and digging far underground are more common. Small worlds are also not particularly geared for long-term servers. Resources like iron ore are finite. And even though this is a very rare problem on larger worlds, even very active ones, a small world that was generated with only a small desert biome may struggle acquiring enough iron to sustain itself for several months, with a very active player base. I hope all this helps shed some light on what this data might mean in the big picture and the downstream gameplay. Find a server that fits how you like to play and get in there. Want a long-term server with a supportive community? Then you can join DadSpeed at the direct IP address in the description below. Till next time, take care, and I'll be talking to you later.